Good morning, everyone. I am Fran Gibson, President of Rossmoor Emergency Preparedness Organization. I want to welcome everybody here who's attending our Zoom meeting today. I also want to welcome those who will attend this meeting through our link that will be posted on our website, rossmoorepo.org. It will also be posted to our YouTube channel. And George Ivanoff, Channel 28's awesome director, is recording it as well this morning so he can schedule it for later scheduling on our community TV station so that more people in our community can receive the marvelous information that Lisa Katzki is going to present this morning, the essentials of a well-supplied grab-and-go bag and shelter-in-place supplies. So Harris, let me turn it over to you so that you can go through the ground rules for the Zoom meeting, which ensures all our attendees have a much more successful and enjoyable experience. Thank you, Harris.
Thanks, Fran. As I noted earlier, we have registered over 110 people for this meeting. So to make sure that everybody can hear and see the presenters and the material that is being presented today, we ask everyone to make sure you keep your microphones muted and your videos off. We even ask the presenters to keep their microphones muted as well if they're not doing the presentation. That avoids misdirection and other information when you hear dogs barking or phones ringing in the background. You can still participate by putting any comments or questions you might have in the chat control in Zoom. And Nancy Herney will be watching the chat questions and comments and grouping them together and addressing them to the appropriate presenter as we go along. This meeting does have live transcripts enabled for the hearing impaired. Those show up as subtitles in whatever language your computer is set to use. You can move them around, you could change the size, you can have a separate transcript panel shown on the side of the presentations as well. And you can save the full transcript of the meeting to your computer separately. The meeting is being recorded, as Fran mentioned, and it'll be on our EPO website. It will include closed captions in English and subtitles in about 16 different languages so that everybody can get the most benefit from that. Fran, that's it. And with the ground rules, back to you.
Thank you, Harris. And the fact that you are now providing live transcripts and English and other languages, again, gives EPO a chance to reach a greater, wider community here in Rossmoor, and that makes me very happy. I have some announcements and some introductions of our panelists this morning. Let me go through these as quickly as I can. There is another round of 4 free rapid antigen home tests per household being offered by the federal government this morning. I already went and ordered mine. I encourage everybody within earshot to do the same. Each household in America can order another round of these 4 free rapid antigen home tests. You go to covidtests.gov or you call 1-800-232-0233. Nancy's going to put that in our chat box so that you can take notes. It will also be on already is on our Rossmoor EPO website. You can order 2 boxes with 2 tests in each box, and they will be mailed out 1 or 2 weeks after ordering. You should test yourself within 5 days after possible close contact with any infected person or persons. 2 fully vaccinated and boosted EPO leaders have reported to me that they tested positive this week for a COVID breakthrough case. Antigen tests yield results within 30 minutes. You need to test again within 24 to 48 hours to confirm the initial testing results. This is the reason you receive 2 tests per box. If you think you've been exposed, you need to validate the COVID exposure by utilizing both tests in one box within 2 days of the first test. Antigen tests, like many other consumer products, carries an expiration date, which extends beyond that date, often to have a longer shelf life. But to be safe, check the FDA or the manufacturer's website to see if this manufacturer has reliably demonstrated to the FDA that its components remain stable for some time past the printed expiration date on your free antigen test. So I encourage everybody to go ahead and order. My second announcement is that we have a stealth variant of Omicron, and it accounts for 8% now of all United States infections, and this rate has doubled every week for 3 weeks now, which concerns me greatly. It is thought to be 30% more transmissible than the BA1 or the BA3 variant. It also seems to lack a mutation that can be tracked by the 2 types of COVID tests we now utilize, the PCR test and the antigen home tests I just referenced. BAT does differ from the original Omicron by some 28 mutations, which may render it more highly transmissible. Evading a diagnosis through testing makes this variant more dangerous for us seniors who have underlying medical conditions and any of us who are immune suppressed. BA2 is now the dominant variant in 18 countries, and this one bears watching, and if the incidence continues to rise sharply, this variant could play a crucial role in our own personal and collective risk management decisions. We may be tired of the virus, but the virus is obviously not tired of us. The next announcement is about drought conditions and Golden Rain Foundation's grant application for a Rossmoor fire break. The American West is parched dry in drought conditions not seen in 1,200 years. California's climate is transitioning rapidly to higher extreme temperatures, lower precipitation rates, and a lower snowpack runoff. And with this new climate regime, we face skyrocketing wildfire. Our current mega drought is only exceeded by one that occurred in the late 1500s. The most recent 2022 United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report that I have read thoroughly is nothing short of dire. Quote, "The world faces unavoidable multiple climate hazards over the next 2 decades. Accelerated, interdependent action is required to adapt to this climate change, to ensure a livable future for all Earth species on our planet." Speaking of their call to accelerated interdependence action, CONFIRE, County Fire, which provides fire protection and mitigation services to Rossmoor, has applied for a fuel suppression grant close to $5 million from CAL FIRE, known as State Fire, for a 100-foot fire break established midway up our ridge line, which would add another 12 miles to an existing 16-mile shaded fuel break that was completed outside Rossmoor in 2021. The Rossmoor News recently carried an article encouraging Rossmoor residents to contact their elected officials to support this vital grant application. I offered comments at the last GRF board meeting advocating for a fact sheet describing the problem and how these grant monies could supply the solution, as well as a script with a clear and compelling ask from politicians to help residents lobby for this grant. Board President Dwight Walker contacted me immediately, and I met with him and fellow board member Neva Flattery to help draft a lobbying letter from CEO Tim O'Keefe and Dwight Walker. The lobbying strategy now is to have only GRF contact elected officials, although if needed, I recommended a resident petition that can be signed online or at each district director level, rather than overwhelming elected officials and their staff with calls and emails. Fire Marshal Chris Bachman is doing an outstanding job helping plan GRF's lobbying approach. Grant awards will be announced in August or September, and excess fuel removal will begin thereafter and take about 2 years or so to complete. This is a very exciting innovation, and I thank Tom Cashion for his leadership on this. The next announcement is we will have our first historic Rossmoor evacuation drill on Sunday morning, May 15th at 7:30. The city and county have announced plans to evacuation zone WCRs 002 out of Mutual 68 and have Eagle Ridge residents drive to Heather Farm Park Community Center early Sunday morning, 7:30 on May 15th. Eagle Ridge has 233 manors with some 400 residents, and this evacuation zone was chosen because of its high wildfire risk due to its heavily wooded canyons and hills and a PG&E transmission line that runs across Eagle Ridge to San Francisco. Tom Cashion is ably leading GRF's participation in the drill planning process, and he secured a seat at the agency and shareholder planning table for me and EPO, and I thank him. We commend him for ensuring the concerns of residents can be honored in the planning process. We meet every 3 weeks, and together we'll plan this historic event. I'm sure Tom will have more to report today on a community-wide meeting on April 27th at 4 p.m. in the Event Center, which will be around evacuations and the role of evacuation drills. The next announcement is we have new EPO teams being organized. I'm getting reports of this all over Rossmoor, which excites me greatly. Particularly in Mutual 40 and Mutual 61, resident leaders there in Mutual 40 and 61 are conferring with me on how best to get a new EPO team in place in both mutuals. We want to welcome to our growing EPO family Jane Moran and Kathy Parrish with Mutual 40, and Bob LaSala and Rich Haddock with Mutual 61. Special shout outs go to John Trinterud for checking out an FRS radio set for Bob and his team, and to Tim Davis, my co-coordinator here in Entry 16, for charging 3 new FRS sets for this Mutual 61 team. Mutual 61 contains the 63 self-standing houses here with 107 residents. EPO's strategic goal, is to have at least 2 FRS operators in each entry in Rossmoor and on streets without entries. These walkie-talkie short-range radios are how EPO FRS operators post-disaster will report into Rossmoor area CERT the status of our entry or our streets without entries. CERT in turn radios in our status to city first responders who can more effectively target their emergency response to areas in Rossmoor in the greatest need of help. So a shout out to my 2 new mutual teams and to the folks who are assisting them. I thank you. The next announcement is very exciting to me. I'm thrilled to announce an EPO initiative to design a front door evacuation notice that is affixed to our Rossmoor front doors when we evacuate either voluntarily or under a mandatory order. I designed one for my Berkeley neighborhood to help save first responders precious time when they're checking homes for residents who refuse to evacuate, are very elderly, are mobility challenged, or who lack the transportation means to leave. I vetted it first with Public Safety Manager Tom Cashion, who approved it, and then routed the draft notice to Chief Jamie Knox at Walnut Creek Police Department and Fire Marshal Chris Bachman at Confire. Chief Jamie wisely suggested a bright neon color to make the notice easy to spot quickly for first responders. In Terra Granada Drive Entry 16, we are distributing the evacuation notice in a plastic bag with $4 store Band-Aids included. We recommend our neighbors store the bagged evacuation notice atop their grab-and-go bag at the ready for a quick departure. 5 years of consecutive megafires moving across our state with rapidly and intensely cascading speed means civil authorities have to act quickly to get people out of the way of danger. Please make certain, if you're an EPO team leader, that your neighbors have a bagged copy of this evacuation notice. EPO and Public Safety will in the future make certain copies of this notice are available at the Public Safety Office if you need them. It's also posted on our website under Resident Resources and Coordinator Resources. The next announcement is how to update your EPO membership contact information and paying your EPO 2022 dues. If you've not done so this past year, please go to our website homepage, rossmoorepo.org, and update your contact information for our membership update team. This also assures you, if you're new to EPO, that you will receive my email blast that we send out. This aids us in knowing the changes in local leadership and where we need to recruit new neighborhood teams for our 288 entries and our streets without entries. Doing so is the easiest way for EPO leadership to know your status, and it will save us having to put boots on the ground to check your membership status later. Also on the homepage is the Dues and Donations button. Please check there if you need information on how to contact our intrepid treasurer, Mary Spear, to check your dues status. This year and past years, when we could only meet with Zooms in the pandemic, has meant that our dues have gone down. We depend altogether on your dues for financing our website, providing your email blasts for our email announcements, and just as your own household suffers inflationary pressures, so too do volunteer organizations like EPO. So please do both. Update your membership and pay your dues. Let me give you a quick a sketch of our upcoming EPO meetings. Depending on the COVID protocols, we will be transitioning to in-person clubhouse meetings again beginning in April. I'm very excited about that. Options for hybrid meetings, what I call Zoom and Room, while ideal, are quite limited at this time. It is our hope we can meet where residents can choose to Zoom or come in person. April 4th meeting is on your local EPO team challenges, and I know there are many. Bring them all, and we'll work together to offer suggestions and solutions. We welcome the GRF leadership to our May 2nd meeting, CEO Tim O'Keefe, Public Safety Manager Tom Cashion, Securitas Site Manager Steve Bertolozzi, and GRF Board President Dwight Walker, who will together outline their emergency preparedness goals and ways we can all work together in our community to ensure the safety and well-being of vulnerable seniors who live here. Co-sponsored with Rossmoor Area CERT, June 6th meeting is on the topic of calling 911 and calling 211. We will welcome Chief Jamie Knox with the Walnut Creek Police Department, Lieutenant Drew Olson, who's our new Sector 1 commander, which includes Rossmoor and most of downtown Walnut Creek, 911 Dispatch Supervisor Tori Maxfield, and 211 Public Safety Power Shutoff Care Coordinator Anna Cornfield. So those are the upcoming meetings. We are excited and hopeful that we can get back into in-person meetings because I think that means a great deal to our sense of community as EPO. I'd now like to introduce our panelists this morning. Lisa Katzki has been partnering effectively with EPO for years, and she brings to her trainings humor, clarity, and brain power that makes her one of our most all-time favorite speakers. Lisa is the founder and CEO of an emergency preparedness supply company called Ready Care Company. She is a treasured trainer for Walnut Creek Community Emergency Response Team, CERT, and she's a CPR first aid instructor for the American Red Cross. She is both a registered nurse and a public health nurse, and she brings more than 2 decades of crowning professional experience in emergency preparedness to her Rossmoor work in helping EPO meet its singular core mission to help prepare our neighbors to get themselves and their households braced for a future disaster or emergency striking Tice Valley. Today, Lisa will guide residents in the essentials of a well-equipped grab-and-go bag each household member needs at the ready, and this includes our pets, as we face a daunting spring and summer season marked by rising wildfire risks under dire drought conditions now parching, as I said before, the entire American West. Never in Rossmoor's 58-year history has it been more imperative to have each of our 6,676 dwelling units housing close to 10,000 residents to get themselves fully prepared for a major catastrophic event or incident. It is the sole responsibility of each resident to ready themselves and their households for disasters and emergencies. Our EPO mantra is yo-yo. Translated, you're on your own, folks. There is no entity here in Rossmoor who's coming to bring you the water, the food, the medications, and personal items you need for a 3-day grab-and-go bag and for your 14-day shelter-in-place supplies. So we welcome you, Lisa, and we're delighted to see you back. Colene Reams-Trinterud is the past president of Rossmoor EPO. For 5 celebrated years, she now serves as Red Cross's blood program lead for our quarterly co-sponsored GRF, EPO, and Northern California Red Cross blood donation clinics here in Rossmoor. Speaking of celebrations, March is National Red Cross Month, first declared 79 years ago by President Franklin Roosevelt. Red Cross Month honors all whose lives and dedication turn compassion into tangible action through volunteering and donating blood. This month honors Red Cross's humanitarian spirit that is a beacon of hope for all in our weary world today suffering mounting crises, disasters, and emergencies. Red Cross is the largest volunteer network in all the world. EPO is very fortunate to have Colene at the helm of this life-saving work to ensure Rossmoor residents can easily donate much-needed blood products that save lives across our region. Tom Cashion serves as Rossmoor's public safety manager, and the amplitude of his efforts for a safer Rossmoor has been widened broadly as he pushes his vision's forward vector ahead to more fully protect our vulnerable senior community, which he intends to make the safest in all California. He is a sterling trailblazer for all of us committed in Rossmoor to emergency preparedness and public safety. Recently, the GRF board recognized his diligent dedication and awarded him a new 5-day exempt contract as our public safety manager. Tom brings 24 years of experience in law enforcement and community engagement in the areas of patrolling, crime investigation, community emergency notification, and managerial supervision. He holds a master's degree in criminal justice, and he works closely with EPO and Rossmoor Area CERT to scale up our joint efforts at utilizing best practices for both a safer Rossmoor, his hashtag, and a readier Rossmoor, EPO's hashtag. Welcome, Tom. You're doing an amazing job. Nancy Herney is serving this morning as our questions and comments moderator. She does this so capably when EPO board member Christine Monson is away. Nancy serves as an EPO coordinator in her entry, and she is intake manager for Rossmoor Area CERT. She worked for AT&T for 32 years in administrative management and human resources, and later established her own human resources consulting firm specializing in broadband startups. We're delighted and grateful that Nancy subs for Christine and that she's agreed to manage the questions and comments from our attendees today. Please put your questions into the chat box as our meeting proceeds, and Nancy will handle them. Harris Greenberg serves very capably as EPO's high-tech coordinator, whose role includes managing our Zoom meetings, editing them, and posting them in record-breaking time to our website and our EPO YouTube channel. He works closely and cooperatively with Channel 28 Director George Ivanoff to ensure our meetings can get scheduled on community television to reach a wider Rossmoor audience beyond our membership. Harris is a retired nuclear scientist. He holds a master's degree in nuclear engineering and has 40 years of experience in the nuclear power industry. He served as his entry coordinator for 5 years and also leads our membership update project, ensuring EPO knows which entries and streets without entries currently have no local EPO teams in place to help their neighbors. Harris's high-tech talents give our Zoom meetings a professional look that I deeply appreciate as your president. And finally, for those of you who do not know me, this is my 3rd year serving as EPO's president, and I have loved the role. My graduate training and experience are in family counseling, patient education, community health administration. I served in the South Carolina's State Public Health Department as health education consultant and later as guest lecturer at the South Carolina School of Public Health. I moved to California in 1987 and went into full-time college teaching. I organized an 8-member healthcare team and traveled to New Orleans 3 weeks after Hurricane Katrina, an experience that will be tattooed on my retinas forever. I led grief counseling support groups for the Episcopal Church following the 1991 Oakland firestorm. Both major disasters deeply inform the work I do today as your president, but my North Star always remains our singular core mission, helping prepare our neighbors for a disaster emergency and organizing them should a mandatory shelter-in-place order be decreed. EPO is entering its 30th year this year. This is my final year as your president. Please be assured I'm not abandoning our mission nor leaving our organization, but we do need someone to step up and take the reins of this vital resident volunteer group. And I promise to strongly shepherd and support any member who takes on this key leadership role. Thank you very much. Colleen, can you give us a report on the blood drives, please?
Hi, thank you. And thank you, Fran, for all that you have done. And it's very important to this ongoing organization. And thanks to all who have participated and supported the Red Cross blood drives that we started a couple of years ago. As you have heard, I'm sure the blood products are currently critically low. Many of those who were signed up for the January 21 drive that was canceled went to the Pleasant Hill Donation Center and gave there. So I thought that was really wonderful. So thank you. Our next drive is April 27th. We only have a few spots left, but we do need people willing to be on a backup or a waiting list because we always have cancellations. So it's important really to have that backup list. So please call me or email me. We have 4 Power Red slots. These are special blood giving requirements, which are the blood types of O positive, O negative, A negative, and B negative. The males have to be 5'1" or 150 pounds, and I find this really interesting. The females have to be 5'5" or 175 pounds. The thing with the Power Reds is that it's 2 for the price of 1. It's important thing to give. We have 3 more drives scheduled for 2022. July 15th is ready for sign up online. The October 5th option is not on our website yet, nor is it on the Red Cross site yet, but will be soon. I'm working on that. So a little more information on the Red Cross in Ukraine. I thought you might be interested in knowing what Red Cross is doing throughout the world. They have in Ukraine distributed more than 90,000 food and hygiene parcels to families on the move across Ukraine, including Mariupol. They provided first aid training for more than 12,000 people in the metro stations and bomb shelters. They've delivered more than 32 tons of food, blankets, medicine, medical supplies, trauma kits, and household items, and assisted with evacuation of people with disabilities. They've distributed critical care items to over 7,000 people seeking safety from shelling in bomb centers. And in the coming weeks, the Red Cross volunteers will be increasing their work uniting separated families, providing food and other household items. The current needs are tremendous, and critical among them are the water deliveries, support to health facilities, and medical care for the wounded. Also in Poland, Hungary, Slovenia, Romania, Moldova, Croatia, Lithuania, Russia, even Russia, Red Cross volunteers are supporting displaced people. Teams are distributing food, water, clothing, bedding, baby products, service for children, pitching tents, and provided much needed mental health and emotional support. At this time, interestingly though, the American Red Cross is not shipping blood products to the Ukraine. The American Red Cross does not ship blood products outside the US without a specific request from the US Department of State, from the United Nations, or unless we have a request from affected Red Cross or Red Crescent societies abroad. I thought you might like that little update as of this morning. So regarding local donations, please contact me. Any help that you need, please call or email me. My information is on the Red Cross EPO organization website. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen, and thank you for the work you do, and certainly the work that the Red Cross is doing in Ukraine is exemplary of the humanitarian mission, core mission that Red Cross has had for so many years. Thank you very much. Mr. Cashion, your public safety report, please.
Thank you, Fran. I'd like to reiterate some kudos to you as well. Fran, you are a phenomenal leader. We are so lucky to have you here. You've been an incredible advocate for all the residents here in Rossmoor, and you continue to do so. I've been impressed ever since I met you, and you continue to impress me every time we meet and speak. Anyways, kudos for everything you've done and you continue to do for this incredible community. Thank you. You are phenomenal. All right, let me kick off my thing. So Fran kind of hit on a lot of my things already, so which was great. She should, as she's part of a lot of these things. But I will hit on a few things that she didn't cover, and then I'm going to go a little deeper into what she did bring up. Access control continues to be implemented. We have brand new cameras that have been installed at our gate, and we also have new cameras up at MOD. Next phase is going to include the software system development and implementation. Really, residents won't notice anything unless you want to notice things. You'll have a lot more amenities and access to your guest list and things you can do, like send a pass to a friend who's coming in and to visit you. So some good things coming. There'll be more about that in the future as we will train everybody up on how to use the new system. But again, if you're a resident and you don't want any changes, you still just have your RFID on your windshield, you'll still just go through lanes 3 or 4. This is really going to impact more so guests and visitors and really improve our overall safety here in Rossmoor. So I'm excited about that project. Next thing is AEDs, automatic defibrillators. I am ordering 15 new ones for the community. Our current ones are old and need to be replaced. So I am in the process of ordering those. Unfortunately, they are all back ordered by 18 weeks, and it's every brand. So it's going to take a while for them to get here. But once they do get here, what's really unique about these new ones we're getting, they're Wi-Fi. They have Wi-Fi, and they alert us whenever someone takes it off the wall. So if there's a medical emergency and someone sees the AED and they grab it off the wall, and immediately Securitas and I get notified that it's been removed from the wall, and we can dispatch our security officers there immediately to find out if it truly is an emergency. So a lot of good benefits. It also updates us when the batteries are low and things like that. So looking forward to these new ones getting here. And then the live drill. So I know Fran already brought that up. I'm very excited about this finally coming here. Just so you know, back in 2020, when I was working at the police department, I had planned to do a live evacuation drill here in Rossmoor in April of 2020. Unfortunately, everybody knows what happened in March of 2020, and everything got put on hold, but it's coming. So it's going to be on May 15th, and we are only going to do one zone. So it does not include everybody, unfortunately, which we have to do that. We have to manage it that way. And so we have Walnut Creek Police Department as the lead with the city. Confire is going to be involved as well. And then several of our other partners, Red Cross is involved, and EPO is. And so we're really looking forward to that happening. There is going to be a community meeting though on April 27th. And Fran mentioned that. That's for everybody. So we're going to have it at the event center, but we'll also have it on Zoom and broadcast on 28 as well later. And that allows everybody to kind of come and learn about evacuations and talk about some possible other alternate evacuation routes out of Rossmoor. They'll talk about how you get notified. There's also some prevention education that's going to happen as well from Confire about how to be better prepared. And if everything goes well, we will be delivering our brand new or our updated evacuation card, and that has that ready, set, go on one side, and then it has your know your zone on the other side. So we have some improvements to the card, so I'm excited to hopefully have that at that meeting. So hopefully we'll have it. The other thing that we will have is a new pamphlet for you about wildfire safety and evacuation processes. It's about a 5-page pamphlet. So that will be there as well. So I encourage everybody to please try to make that on April 27th. And that is it. Fran, back to you.
Thank you, Rockstar Innovator, Tom, and thank you for your kind remarks. That means the world to me as EPO's president. Thank you. You are a joy to work with.
And I think you wanted to do a poll before we.
Yes, yeah. Well, I was about to announce that, Harris. Look, we're going to do a poll to support Lisa Katzki's training that she's going to offer us. So, Harris, would you present that, please? And if attendees would answer the poll, please.
Okay.
Do poll questions.
Yeah, this is an anonymous poll, so we won't know who's answering what, but it's just two simple questions. Do you have a grab and go bag prepared? And do you have long-term shelter in place supplies available? So right now we've got 117 people in the meeting. 60% say they've got a little more than 50% have got grab and go bags, and well, a little more than that, in fact, have got long-term supplies. But it looks like we're about halfway prepared on both sets of kits. There's a lot of mileage that needs to be caught up here in terms of getting everybody prepared for an emergency, so they can evacuate if they need to, and they'll have some supplies with them, or if they need to shelter in place. I think that's enough information at this point for the poll. So I'm going to end the poll now, and we can move on to Lisa's presentation.
Thank you, Harris, for that. This poll demonstrates something that FEMA does a survey every year on emergency preparedness. And seniors over the age of 65, even though we suffer the greatest morbidity and mortality in all forms of disasters and emergencies, are the least prepared. And Rossmoor, it looks like, at least from the attendees, if we were able to extrapolate, it looks like we are well above the 25% average of seniors in America who are prepared for a disaster. So it's EPO's core mission to get that number much higher than 50% in the grab and go bag and 60% in the shelter in place supplies. But this is encouraging, and I want all EPO team leaders who are listening to make certain, do a poll with your neighbors. Do you have a grab and go bag? Do you have shelter in place supplies? If you do not, how can we help you? So we're going to turn it over to Lisa now, Lisa Katzki, and she's going to tutor us in how to get both of these things ready for our household. And she has a wonderful quote by Dennis Waitley, and I'll just quote the first three words: expect the best. And when we get Lisa Katzki here, we always expect and get the best. Welcome, Lisa. We're delighted to see you.
Thank you very much, Fran, and hats off to you. I have to tell you, I was surprised to hear that this is going to be your last year as president, and I do have to say that you're going to be leaving a very large pair of shoes for somebody to try and fill. So I've never seen anybody with as much energy as you. So thank you very much for all that you do for the community.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lisa Katzki. The first thing I'm going to do is go belly up and say that I am the least tech savvy person, I think, here. So please, my apologies if anything goes goofy here. I'm going to do my best. It's the reason why I like to keep my 25-year-old son in the Bay Area. In case I have any mishaps, I basically call him, but he's not here right now. So bear with me as we try to do that. I'm going to go ahead and try and start my slideshow here. And what we're going to talk about today is the difference between a grab and go bag and an emergency kit. So just bear with me as I try to make this happen. Okay, I feel much better now. So today we are going to talk about grab and go versus emergency supply kits. And it was very interesting that with the slides, with the poll that you had, that it's basically a 50-50 split between people who are prepared and people who are not. And I am going to admit right off the bat that my household is exactly the same. Now, you all know what I do. I specialize in emergency preparedness. To the side of my bed, I have a bag that is filled with the basic necessities that I have, that if I had to get out within 5 minutes or under, I could leave. My husband, bless his heart, has gotten as far as having the bag there, but he has not yet filled it. So when I speak to you, I'm speaking to my own personal self. It's the biggest issue is not that people don't know what to do. It's creating the the motivation and the impetus for you to decide that now is the time to get ready. Because as you've heard me say before in the past, the most important part of preparedness are the first 3 letters, PRE, and that is before a disaster happens. So today we're going to explore the emergency kit and the grab and go bag. What's the difference and which one do we actually really need? And also we're going to talk a bit about how to put one together and what should be included. Let's see if I can even get to the next step. Hold on. Okay, this is funny. There we go. I'm on a roll, 2 slides now. Woohoo! Okay, so during some types of emergencies, such as floods and landslides, wildfires, and even tsunamis, and yes, there was a tsunami warning in San Francisco after the volcanic explosion in the Pacific, you may not be able to return to your home, or you may have to leave with very little notice. So to be ready, every person in your home should have their own customized grab and go bag. Ideally, you'll have one at home, one in your car, and if you work out of the house, one at your place of work or school. So a grab and go bag is a smaller version of your emergency supply kit. That's basically all it is. It's what you're going to carry with you if you need to evacuate. The beauty of it is that it's packed and ready to go, so that if you have to leave in 5 minutes or less, you can grab it and go. So this is pretty much, a basic grab and go bag. It's the contents of what's there. So what you're going to want to include in a basic grab and go bag is some ready to eat food. It could be a prepared meal. It can be little bags of nuts and cranberries, just something that you can eat and get some nourishment for the time in between when you're able to get access to other food. It's going to have some water, personal toiletries, including your medication, any medication that you're going to need, and an extra pair of glasses or contacts. I do recommend having a whistle. And when I say whistle, not just one that has a little tiny, where you think it's going to whistle. You want a whistle that when you blow it, someone's going to hear you, because you may be in a situation that you can't get out and you're going to need to use the whistle to let people know where you are. I also recommend a radio and a flashlight, and also extra batteries for both if they're not solar powered or crank. A cell phone is going to be very important to have, and you do want to have a phone charger and a backup battery bank. There are power packs out there that you can keep charged in your wall socket, and you can grab it on your way out, and it'll keep your phone going for many recharges to get you through the disaster. A blanket is also good in case we have seasonal weather like we have now. It is becoming spring, but it is a little bit colder sometimes during the day, and having seasonal clothing and sturdy footwear is also very important. Another thing people don't always remember is to have cash. We are going to need to still exchange cash for products, and if there is a power outage, your credit card is not going to work, and having small bills, singles, 5s, 10s, and nothing bigger than a 20 is going to be important, because not everybody is going to have the ability to make change. So you want to be able to pay for the items that you need with as little amount of cash as possible. You also want to include in your ready to go bag your emergency plan and contact numbers. And the contact numbers could be family or friends. They could be insurance carriers or doctors. It can be anybody that you need to remember. And let's assume that you're not using your phone where it's already pre-programmed. A lot of us forget our phone numbers now because we just say call so-and-so. So if you're using someone else's phone and you don't remember all of the phone numbers, having those numbers on a list is crucially important. And I also recommend having copies of important documents, such as your insurance papers and your identification. It could be a scan of a passport or a driver's license. You can easily upload those to a cloud. You can put those on a flash drive, something that you have access to that you can get readily available if you can find a source. If it's handwritten or typed on a piece of paper, that's the easiest. Hopefully you'll be able to find a computer somewhere to load up and get a screenshot of what you need. but having a way to share that information with yourself and with the people that you need is important. And also having a pen and a notepad. In general, that's the contents of a good grab and go bag. Sorry. So this, people want to always say, well, what do I put it in? Well, this is just pretty much some basic luggage. Any of these items will do. A good grab and go kit will be something that you can easily carry. And you want to make sure that it's not so heavy that it throws you off of balance. So any of these will do. Or even these. And if you put this is just kind of a breakdown of what the kits are going to look like. It's kind of like you can look on the inside and you can see that there's water in there on the right-hand side. I don't know if you can see here, the water. If you do put water into your bag, I do suggest that you put it into a sealed Ziploc bag, just in case that there's leakage. And that does happen from time to time. I'm sure many of you have had a situation where you stick a water bottle in your handbag and you find that the contents of your bag are wet by the end of the day because it's not hermetically sealed. Things do happen. So remember that this is not your main source of supplies. I want to say that again, not your main source of supplies. It is called grab and go for a reason. So please, when you're putting your grab and go bag together, make sure that it's not a drag and fall or a hoist and cry. It should be something that you can easily carry without throwing yourself off of balance. You can have a grab and go kit in your home, and that would be in addition to the emergency kit. And again, you can have one in your car and at your place of work or school or vacation. So the other thing that I want to say before we finish up on grab and go bags, and basically from what we heard and what we've experienced over the past 2 years, where things have been less than optimal for each of us, just because it's a disaster doesn't mean that you can't have fun. So there's no reason why your grab and go kit can't have a fun treat for the end of a very stressful day. So you may want to think, if you're going to put in a grab and go kit, have one of those little cordials, maybe with a twist off top, so you don't have to worry about it carrying something extra, but keep the big bottle in your emergency kit. And if you do put the big bottle in your bigger emergency kit, don't forget to add a corkscrew. And here's a little life hack, just in case you ever get stranded in Hawaii. Did you know that a corkscrew is the easiest way to open up a coconut? Now you know. You're welcome. Oh, hold on. I have to go back. One moment.
Use page up or no.
There we go. Thank you. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the emergency kit. And I will, there will be time after all of this to answer any questions that you may have about the grab and go kit, as well as the emergency kit and any other questions that you may have. So an emergency supply kit is a collection of tools and supplies that you're going to use during an emergency where you have to stay at home. It could be that you're staying at home after an earthquake, if that's what the consensus is to stay at home. It could be during a severe storm or following a hazardous material spill. We have all experienced all of these situations over the past 10, 15, 20 years. So we're familiar with it, but somehow once the emergency passes, we forget that it's ever going to happen again. So it's important to keep it up to date. Your emergency kit should have everything that you need to keep everyone in your home safe and comfortable. And even though people say a 3-day kit, I still say a 3 to 7 day kit. If you can do longer, all the better. If you have pets, please be sure that you include supplies for your pets. Please include a leash and, poopy bags. There's no reason why that you can't clean up after your pet's in an emergency. And you may want to even include a muzzle for your pet in case your pet is injured. You may think your pet is quite safe and calm, but if they're injured and hurt, their behavior is going to be different. Think about how you feel when you're not well or you're hurt, and just understand that your pet does not understand the same things that you do, and they could lash out. So it's important to gather these items before you need them and put them all together in one place so that you can easily access them. So this is an example of after a disaster and people say, oh my gosh, let's get our supply kit together. You may not have time after a disaster occurs. You may have minutes, if that. Think about how long it takes for you to pack for a vacation. Okay, many of you start days ahead. Think about that, and now imagine that you could possibly have to do that in 5 minutes or less in order to get that done. Are you really going to have enough time to put and find things all around the house? So for those of you who do have your kits together, thank you very much for doing that. It is good to check it and make sure that things are up to date and have not expired. For those of you who have not done this, what is stopping you from doing it? What is preventing you from doing this now, just in case we need it? The contents of your emergency kit will depend on you, your specific family situation, the size of your family, your personal needs, your medical needs. All of that is going to depend on you. So while there are lots of suggestions and lists that are out there, I don't work with lists. I work with the subjects, and Harris, I know, well, let me go to my next slide. Harris, I know, is going to go and send out a handout to everyone who is on this list or who requests it about how to go and put an emergency supply kit together. So let's summarize the things that you're going to want to include in your emergency kit. This is the handout that I have used at, I think, every one of my classes. Many of you have them. It is a very good summary. It is not a specific list. Again, the reason is that my specific family needs now today are going to be different than your needs. My list today is also different than the list that I would have used for myself 10 or 15 years ago. So your specific needs are going to change as your life progresses for where you are. So this sheet is something that Harris, I've sent a copy to Harris, and it can be made available to you. Following this, you can request it and we'll email it out to you. So following a disaster, your home emergency kit will be invaluable. Building a kit doesn't really take very long. And following a disaster, you're going to be glad that you have the supplies that you need when a disaster strikes. It's going to be priceless. For guidelines, again, I offer this handy worksheet of things to consider when making your kit. You want to be able to put your supplies into a container. It might stretch out into 2 containers. It could be plastic bins or duffel bags. It doesn't matter, something that will keep them protected from the elements and the livestock that is in our community. And you want to make sure you put them in an area of your home that is easy to get to. It could be a hall closet, a spare room, the carport, or a garage. The first thing that we're going to talk about is food. Food and water for at least 3 days. And again, if you can, a full week is better. You want ready to eat food is preferable because it's easier. It's one less thing you have to think of. Non-perishable food, and again, a minimum of 3 days to a week's supply. When you're trying to figure out how much food to put in, basically figure out between 800 to 1,200 calories per day will pretty much cover the majority of our needs. If you have health conditions that mean that you need to eat a little bit more frequently, then throw some extra stuff in. If you don't use the food, that's okay. You'll share it with a neighbor who meant to prepare but did not. You'll be the one who gets the kudos after because you were more prepared than you need to be. In the event of a disaster and you are able to stay in your manor or your home, you want to eat the food from the fridge first, then the freezer, then the food in your pantries, and then you're going to break into your emergency supply. So having an emergency supply kit of between 3 to 7 days is only a bonus for the food that you already have in your house. If you're not able to access the food in your house, then the emergency supplies of 3 to 7 days is your supply. If you think back to 2005, when Katrina hit, it took 5 business days, 5 days before food and water began to roll into the Gulf Coast region. Think about how it is after you've missed a meal and how crabby you get, and then think how you're going to feel after 5 days of not having any food supplies if you do not have supplies set aside for yourself. You want to make sure that you account for allergies that you may have or somebody in your family, and you also want to account for changes in your ability to eat. What you're able to chew and swallow 15 years ago may, over time, with the progression of age and medical conditions, it may change. So if you are not able to chew things like you were before or swallow things that you were, then please make sure that you adjust your food contents in your emergency kit appropriately so that you can eat in the event of a disaster. In your bag, you're going to also want to include things like Ziploc bags, foil and utensils. A manual can opener is important, and you want to make sure that you check your food and expiration dates at least once a year. And remember, all food has expiration dates. Some of them say best if used by. That doesn't mean that you have to get rid of it. Use your common sense, use your nose and your other senses. If it doesn't smell right, don't eat it, even if it says that it hasn't expired. Things do happen, and you want to make sure that you're safe. With regard to water, a person can survive weeks without food, but only days without water. So water is recommended that you have at least 1 gallon per person per day, and that's for both drinking and sanitation. Now, water is heavy. Think about carrying a gallon of milk around, and that's just 1 day's worth. If you're talking about 7 days, think about carrying 7 days. So you want to make sure that you know where there's other sources of water and have a supply in different places so you can access it and not have to carry it. Your water heater is a really good supply of that. If you're not there, know where your neighbor's water heater is. There's no reason why you can't borrow if they're not using it. There's no problem with that, and maybe make an arrangement with them now that you can borrow neighbor supplies if they're not there. Pets need about 1 ounce of water for every kilo of body weight. So that's for every 2 pounds of pet need 1 ounce of water. So if you have a little cat or a small dog, they need about 1/2 to a cup of water each day. I have a 95-pound dog. He's as sweet as they come, but he drinks a lot of water, and he needs about 5 to 6 cups of water per day. So when you are preparing your supplies, you want to make sure that you have enough for any pet family members in your household as well. You should not open the water until you need it. You should not use water that is past the expiration or best before date printed on the bottle. If there is no expiration date printed on the bottle, assume that it is 6 months and rotate it. Doesn't mean it has to be wasted. You can drink it at that time on your own or water your plants, so don't waste the water. Good Lord knows we need the water that we have. And do not use water from toilet tanks or bowls, radiators, water beds, swimming pools, or spas. There's way too many particulate in there or chemicals in there that could make it counterproductive, especially as we are getting older. If your regular water supply becomes contaminated, you can purify it. Purify your water through boiling or bleach or chlorine and iodine tablets. There's also personal water filters and larger water filters. If you do use a water filtration device, it is also still a good idea to store some bottled water as well, just in case you have to bring some water with you. So none of the purification methods that I just described eliminates heavy metals, salt, chemicals, or radioactive dust and dirt. And I never ever thought that I would have to talk about radioactive dust and dirt, but we've all watched the news lately, so I just figured I'd throw it in. And a little side note, when I was looking at Harris's photo earlier and the background, it looked like you had and I didn't know that you were a nuclear scientist, but it looked like there was a nuclear cloud behind you. So I just want to say good choice on backgrounds, dude.
That was actually the Northern Lights, but that's okay.
I know, I knew that, but I was doing the little tweak there, my friend. I want to say that you want to make sure that in your kit, you talk about, you have water there for you to take the prescription medications that you need. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. You're also gonna, with any disaster, there's an estimated, and it's just an estimate, or I should say a guesstimate, that there's gonna be 15 to 20% of the population is going to experience some sort of an injury. So you're gonna wanna have a first aid kit to handle the common injuries. Hospitals and urgent care, if they're functioning, will be overrun. And doctors' offices will not be set up for urgent care. That's just not how they're set up. It is very important that if you've not taken one, take a first aid class. It could be a basic first aid class. I do know that if you do want to get involved a little bit further and get involved with the CERT program, they do teach some basic first aid. It's more of a disaster medical first aid. It's what to do when the emergencies happen, which may be the perfect level of first aid training that you're going to want. But you're also going to need the supplies that in order to take care of those injuries. So do learn first aid, and please use common sense when you're there. And there is no way to prepare for every single emergency and injury that you're going to have. So learning why you need to do something and figuring out ways to improvise the supplies that you need is going to be just as important as having some of the supplies available. Eventually, you're going to run out of supplies, and you're going to have to use what's around you to make do, and that's fine. The goal is to save lives, and it doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to work. As far as medication, I'll take note, all of us have medication needs that change as we age. So I do recommend having at least a bare minimum of medication, which I would say would be a 7-day supply. If you could do a 10 to 30-day supply of medications, even better. And when we're talking about 30-day, I'm talking about things like insulin, to have at least a 30-day supply of insulin if you need it. If a lot of people say to me, my insurance company is not going to cover an emergency supply of medication. And I'm going to say, that's fine, but you know a disaster is going to happen. You just don't know when. So start today and save 1, 2, or 3 pills every month out of the medication that you have and put it into a container. You can ask your pharmacist to make you a container specifically labeled with the medication, the proper dosage, and the way that who the prescribing physician is and all that information. Or you can save a bottle when you empty it and use that for your emergency supply. But start saving today so that you have the bonus cash of emergency medication that you have. And then every year you can replace it. Once you have the number of pills that you want, every year you can replace it and use the medication that was in your bottles now and replace it with more current. So it still stays current and fresh. And make sure that if your prescription changes, you get those bottles updated so that you're not taking the wrong dose at the wrong time. You also want to include a list of your medications and a copy of your prescriptions in case you need to refill something. It could be that you drop your last pill, or you in your haste, your nerve, whatever the reason is, you've destroyed the supply that you have and you need to get it refilled. Your doctor's office may not be available or accessible, so do have a copy of your prescription now. Do wear medical ID if you're on blood thinners, or if you use EpiPens, or have any other major thing, if you have taken cardiac medications or have a defibrillator. Anything that is important to share with somebody else in case you're not able to speak for yourself is important to have either on your body or in your possession so that people know what's going on. You can update all of this information on your cell phone. I'm better with an iPhone than on an Android, but it's a little white square, the pink heart, gives you the ability to update this information on your cell phone, and you can, it is accessible by anybody who finds you, unconscious or not. They can access your emergency medical information. And if you have questions about that, you can reach out to me after and I can help you one-on-one, or I can put you in touch with my son, which I often do, on helping you get through all of that. If you need a CPAP or oxygen, make sure you have enough supplies. And if you need a power supply for those, make sure you have a backup for that, or it could be a generator or a power pack of some sort. So do look into getting a large power pack or a generator. I know some people have Teslas, and power packs that can help you with power at some point. But don't forget the accessories and supplies that you need in order to keep that going. Please do learn some sort of life-saving skills and first aid. The American Red Cross offers classes, or you can learn some basic first aid through your local CERT program, as I mentioned before, or you can find a local instructor if you wish to put an on-site class together. Putting a class together now is a little bit more difficult still because of COVID. It's still not quite at the point where we can go out, but there are many online classes that you can take, which is better than having no experience at all. So please do look into that. We talked about insulin. If you are on a temperature sensitive medication such as insulin, or it could be Byetta, Victoza, epinephrine, auto injectors, if a disaster happens when it is really hot, meaning over 86 degrees, you're going to want to find a way to keep your medication cool and safe. This is not going to keep it refrigerator cold, but things like insulin don't have to be refrigerated. Except for long-term storage. Insulin can stay at a below room temperature up to a month. And the big thing is that you're going to want to keep it cool below 86 in a situation like that. When the power went out in Puerto Rico, it was out for over 11 months, and it was over 86 degrees for the majority of that. So if you were on insulin, you can get your insulin every month, but you were not able to keep it cool. So this was a way to keep that medication cool for that amount of time. So let's talk about communication. First of all, the EPO program is probably your most valuable gift living in Rossmoor. The information they dispense to you each month, whether you choose to join in or not, they are still working behind the scenes, and the work that they do is priceless. And the fact that you have such skilled leaders as Fran Gibson, and in the past Colene, and now with Tom Cashion there, they are bringing experience that you are benefiting from on a daily basis. What they do behind the scenes to keep you all safe is priceless. But you also want to make sure that you have a way to communicate, to get information and to share information once a disaster strikes. So do be sure that you have a battery powered or hand cranked radio. You want to make sure that you have a flashlight and extra batteries for both. A cell phone, a charger, and backup and battery pack, as we said before, is important. A loud whistle to let people know where you are. But you want to communicate this information with your family and friends. Having an emergency plan for yourself is great, but you want to let your loved ones, you want to let them know what your plans are, so they're not worried about it. And only tell the loved ones that you like. If you don't like any, now's a good time to cut ranks with them, but share your emergency plan with the people that you like and you care and you know will be worried about you. Let somebody know if you're going to be away. It can be a neighbor, it can be a friend. If you are still working out of the house, let somebody know if you're not going to be coming into work. This way, if a disaster hits and they're looking for you, they're not looking for you unnecessarily. If they know that you're not there or in your manor or in your apartment, then they're not going to spend the time. And I know that Fran has that beautiful placard that's going to be going on if you have to leave. It's the same concept. Don't have first responders spend time searching for you if you're not there. So do share that information with somebody. And if cell towers are down, text, email, and phone calls may not work, but still try them all anyway. My guess is that texting will be the easiest way to share information. But if somebody have an out-of-state contact, have them know what your plan is, and this way they can share information if anybody's able to reach them and get to them. You do want to share this information, your emergency plans, with work or school, or if you have family members in a nursing home, a skilled nursing facility. Do leave notes on the door if you are evacuating, which is wonderful, and do have on your phone ICE numbers. ICE stands for in case of emergency, and also have those same ICE numbers printed out just in case you lose your phone and you need access and you don't remember the phone numbers. And again, have copies of important documents such as insurance papers and identification. And please do include a copy of your passport and driver's license, because that will help get you started with any FEMA assistance that might be there. So we're going to move on a little bit to lighting. You have to assume that a disaster is going to happen in the dark, and you don't want to be a trip and fall hazard. That was another class that we took about how lighting is important to prevent falls. If you have questions about fall prevention, then that is in the library that you can reach out to Fran or Harris if you need questions about how to get access to that. But do have a cell phone that has a flashlight. Do replace the batteries and test them yearly. Get night lights that go on when the power goes out. Glow sticks are easy and they do provide some lighting. It's not great lighting, but it is some lighting and it's easy and lightweight. And if you're unsteady on your feet, please use assistive devices such as a cane to avoid a fall. If you are getting up in the middle of the night and the lights are off, you're going to be disoriented as it is. There may be things on the floor, so have a cane or walker next to you if that is something that you need to rely on. Don't be brave in the situation like this. Use the support that you have. It's better to get out with a cane and a walker than not to get out and become further injured. So again, for more about falls and fall precautions, there is a class that's been recorded. So please do check the library of classes available to you through EPO. A disaster happens. It could be in the cold of winter or in the heat of summer. It doesn't matter. So when you're talking about the fact that you may not be able to stay in your apartment, your home, or your manor, you want to make sure that you include seasonal clothing for both the hot and the warm and the in-betweens. It doesn't have to be pretty, but it wouldn't hurt if it was. So put something in that is fun for you. And please remember to replace the clothing as needed if your size changes one way or the other. Otherwise, you're going to have to cut things or tape things, which is a possibility. But make sure you upgrade your emergency kit if things have changed. If you have growing children in your family that you've prepared for, small children, make sure that you change the clothes in there. It could be grandbabies. Make sure you change the clothing in there so that if you do need to outfit them, and you haven't updated your emergency kit in 10 years, so your 1-year-old is now 10-year-old, they're not going to be too happy with you. You can use those littler clothing for dust rags. You want to make sure that you do have sturdy footwear. You want to make sure that you are not tripping over the shoes that you have. Slippers are not going to be sufficient. You want something that you can tie onto your foot that are closed-toed, closed-heeled, or preferable, and something that is easy with good tread in case it is wet outside if we ever have a situation where it rains again. It may. I have high hopes, but you never know. You also want to have things in there like blankets, a tent maybe, pillows, a fan, something that will keep you cool. If you have a cot, all of these things are possibilities to have in your emergency kit. It's not something you're going to be able to just grab and go with. It's going to have to be in a place that you have access to. Sanitation is going to be important. Any good community keeps their disease level down with good sanitation. However, infrastructure can be compromised. Water lines may be compromised. You may or may not have access to good running water. And so keeping yourself safe and with good hygiene is going to be important. I think that one of the bonuses of the COVID outbreak, and there are many positives that have come out of this COVID situation, is how we have learned the importance of washing hands. It's not just enough to just say, oh, my hands look clean. You have to wash your hands for at least 20 seconds and frequently throughout the day. There's no more important time to remember proper sanitation than during a disaster when there may be the absence of running water and availability to soap and running water. So do make sure that in the absence of running water, you have a good hand sanitizer, which now, by the way, you can pick up for probably pennies because there's a lot of it out there. Take advantage of that and put some of that into your emergency kit. You want to have personal toiletries, such as items like a hairbrush and toothbrush, deodorant. If you wear dentures, have the things to put those in place. Have cups to keep them in, contact lens solution, extra pair of glasses, toilets and toilet paper. Personal wipes are really good. Deodorizers, because might as well make bodily functions a little bit more pleasant. If you're in close confines, there's no reason why you can't get through this with the normal creature comforts. Liner bags are important. Trash bags for personal sanitation, and don't get rid of your masks. I know COVID mask mandate has let up. As Fran alluded to, there is another variant out there. It doesn't matter whether COVID is gone. We have fire season that's coming upon us. The same mask that you're using now can be used for dust masks. I will tell you that the pleated mask will not work for smoke. The ones that you're going to need for smoke when fire season hits are the N95 masks. So don't get rid of them just yet. Throw them, if you think you're done with them now because of COVID, put them into your emergency kit and keep them just in case, because this is not going to be the first time we're going to go through this, and it's certainly not going to be the last. Tools, I'm going to tell you the knowledge is your most precious tool, okay? And what you're learning through EPO and any classes that you take are going to benefit you greatly, because you may not remember it, all of it, but if you can pick out one or two priceless things to take with you, even if it's just the fact that you need to get your emergency kit done, that's going to be the most important thing. You want to make sure that you have other tools to help you through this emergency. Having safety glasses or goggles, having the mask that you need, like we just talked about, having the right N95 mask. Think back to the beginning of COVID and how everybody, when everything started shut down, how the store shelves were empty, how everybody was looking for the masks and nobody had them available. Well, not nobody, many places did not have them available, and how scarce supplies were. Or think about when the COVID tests, everybody was looking for COVID tests and they were scarce. You have emergency, you could kind of ride through this and not have that stress that was created by this lack of supplies. That is what we're talking about, is eliminating that stress of not having what you need to get through and get what you need done. So it is important to think ahead about what you may need. And it's never going to be a finished product. You're never going to be fully prepared. I'm not even fully prepared, and I've been doing this for over 20 years. My family's not fully prepared, even though I've been talking about it for well over 20 years. I love him to pieces and 36 years of marriage, but he has an empty suitcase not filled with the supplies that he needs. So after we're done here, I'm going to nag him again. So I'm just telling you, I live the same life as you do. You want to have things like shovels, a screwdriver, hammer, pry bars. Not all of us work with these tools all the time. And if we work with them and we may not be used to it, our skin is going to be more tender. So have a good pair of leather palm gloves. Things like duct tape, which can improvise an awful lot of stuff. Have a good duct tape. Have some garbage bags in there and a scissor. Things that you think you may need. Heck, if you really want to, throw a coffee maker in there and some coffee, and then you can plug it into your generator. Just because it's a disaster doesn't mean you can't have the things that you like. Then we want to talk about special needs, and that's as we age, we all have special needs. It may involve our ability to ambulate. We may not be able to walk up and down stairs like we used to. We may need a wheelchair or a walker or a cane now. So look at your home right now. And the stuff that you take for granted is the ability to go up and down stairs. You may want to make modifications or put modifications in place now in case it's too hard for you to go up and down those stairs. If you are now in a wheelchair, you can get in a lift, something, or put in a ramp or something to make your egress out of your residence safer. Partner with a neighbor who may be able to help you down a stair in the event of emergency. Now's the time to create more community with your neighbors, because we're going to do more to get through this disaster if we work together than we ever would by doing this alone. Other things that you want to consider, and even though gas is now over $5 a gallon, and I know it's painful, please do not let your gas tank get below half a tank. And the reason that I say this is if there's a major disaster that wipes out the power, the gas stations are not going to be able to pump the gas. Even if it's at $10 a gallon, they're still not going to be able to pump the gas. And if you have to get out because there's a fire or something, it's better for you to be able to drive 30, 40, 50, 100 miles away to find a gas station or a supply store that's not in your area, but you won't be able to do it if you don't have the gas in your tank. So when it gets to half, fill it up. You can fool yourself and say, oh, it's only going to cost me $45 to fill my tank as opposed to the $90, but at least you'll have the full tank. And that can be a lifesaver for you. You want to have your cash, some cash and small bills. You decide on the amount. You decide where you're going to put it. Please remember where you put it, because I won't be able to help you with that. But singles, fives, tens, and nothing bigger than a 20. Again, if you're dealing with the very old or the very young, there's going to be things. If they're very young, you may have car seats or carriers that you need to make sure are available if you watch grandbabies. If you use walkers or canes, if you can't carry things, then have something you can wheel your supplies out with. It could be a little push cart. It could be a collapsible one. There are many out there that are functional and lightweight and make it pretty maneuverable for you to manage to carry things without having to put yourself at risk of a fall. And please do include a local map. Now, I am map challenged. I will be the first to admit I'm map challenged, and I depend on my GPS to function. However, if my GPS or my cell towers are down, I'm going to be kind of out of my element. So having a good map in your kit of a local map, at least to get from point A to B, it may take you a while to figure out your way there, but you will be able to do it if you have a way to refer to in an emergency. And if you can't see it, then have things like a magnifying glass so that you can see it in case the print is too small. Please do remember your pets can't do this on their own. They are in your care. You need to think for them. So please make sure that if you do have a pet, you've prepared for them. If you have any questions, you can go to FEMA.gov, helping-pets. You want to update or replace your missing pets tags. If they are chipped, make sure it's up to date. If they're not chipped, either get them chipped or make sure you have good ID on their collar. If there's medication that your pets need, then please go back to what we learned for you. Your pets are not going to stop needing the medication just because you forgot to prepare for it. So please make sure you have what they need. Have emergency identification and make sure you keep their vet information on your phone or print it out. And having supplies in case your pets get injured, including a muzzle. Like I said, if your pet is injured, they may strike out if they're not familiar or they're scared. So do have that information there. So the thing that Fran said before, and I really like to plan, I am absolutely the glass is half full type of a gal. You want to expect the best, all right? You want to plan for the worst, and always prepared to be surprised. I have seen people come together through this COVID like nobody before. And what we're experiencing now with the news going on now and how the whole world and community are coming together to support the people in Europe and in Ukraine, there's a lot of positive out there if you choose to see it. So please do expect to be prepared, be surprised. We can achieve more as a community. If we work together following a disaster, we can achieve way more success as a community than we can if we work individually. So our goal with any preparedness is to get back to a more normalized life as quickly as possible. You do want to stay informed. So make sure that you sign up for any NICSLs or power, emergency notifications. And sometimes those notifications come through loud and scary, but do read them because you don't know what it's going to be. There's phone, there's text, sign up with nixl.com. Rossmoor, I believe, has notifications that are sent out in case there's an emergency within Rossmoor that Fran and Tom Cashion can discuss with you in greater detail. There is internet. Please make sure that the information that you see on the internet is actual facts and not rumors. There's the NOAA, which is the weather station, although we don't really have tornadoes and hurricanes, but you know what, who knows? Expect the unexpected and you'll never be disappointed. There's radio and television, but mostly make sure that you do have access to information and that it is accurate. So my question to you now is, are you ready? If the answer is no, okay, or if you want to become better prepared, the time is now, because if not now, when? Okay, we want to get it done. Thank you very much to Fran, to all of you watching today for your time of welcoming me into your home. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. If you want to reach out to me, you can. This is my phone number, my email. I live, what, 3 miles, 2 miles from you. If you need supplies, I can assist you with that. I never charge to deliver into Rossmoor. If you have questions and just don't know what to get, I'm more than happy to work with you. I've been working with the Rossmoor community for, I think, nearly 20 years now. And I look forward to seeing all of you safe, healthy, and in person as soon as possible. Thank you all.
Thank you, Lisa, for an awesome, amazing rock star presentation. From the EPO perspective, if I might add just a few things to Lisa's presentation quickly, suggestions. She mentioned the need for money. A regional disaster here or emergency would bring us very close to would bring us into a cash-only economy. The national standard in terms of emergency preparedness is $200 per person per household. If you feel you need more than that, please make certain that you get that money in small bills. When I was in New Orleans for the entire 3 weeks of the first trip I made there, and that was the first of 2 trips, I could not withdraw money from any ATM in New Orleans for the entire 3 weeks. So make sure you have money in small amounts. And in terms of the masks, if we're evacuating here in a wildfire, every resident needs to have his or her own N95 mask. That's again, the national best practice standard for wildfires. If we're still in COVID, then we can use the KN95 masks, but the ones that do not have vents. So that's important to distinguish. I have my grab and go bag, which I bought from Lisa when I first attended our EPO emergency preparedness fair, and I have it inside a bag on wheels so that I can get it to my car quickly. I do not store my water in that bag. I store my water in aluminum cans because water in aluminum cans does not degrade in the hot weather we experience here in Northern California, whether we keep that water supply in our garages, our carports, or our cars. So that's an option for those of you. I've had many questions over the years from folks who are concerned about they can't lift a heavy grab and go bag because it has this heavy water in it. So water in aluminum cans that you can store in your car is an excellent alternative. The handout that Lisa referenced is on our website, her disaster supply kits, and it's under resident resources, and I believe it's also under coordinator resources. And it is a fantastic a tip sheet worth your printing out and putting inside your grab and go bag. I personally take a cell phone photo of all my prescription bottles and keep it on my cell phone. That's an easy way to have a record. One of you asked about a loud whistle, and the marine grade whistles are the strongest, obviously, because they're out on the seas and the oceans, and Shoreline Marine product is one of the best, and that's the one that I ordered. And so you might want to Google that. And again, Lisa has, throughout her presentation, emphasized what we in EPO call social cohesion. The best tool we can have in any grab and go bag, any shelter in place resources, any first aid kit is the social cohesion that comes from knowing our neighbors, getting to know their special needs, and us helping neighbors when the big one strikes in whatever form it might come. And she was very correct in saying that emergency preparedness, like the human condition, is always a work in progress. So we keep trying to make it better. I have emphasized to residents on these programs that if you see Tom Cashion's on a red flag warning day, you see his red flag that is blowing below Old Glory, look down at your gas tank if you're driving a gasoline powered car, and look at where your gas tank is. And as you leave Rossmoor, go fill it up. Make sure that your gas tank is as full as it can be. And for those of you who are driving electric vehicles or hybrids, check where your charging is and make sure when you return back here to Rossmoor or you're out and you can get to a charging station, get that up to full. When I was leaving the Oakland firestorm in Oakland and I sat on the really the parking lot of the trying to get on the bridge to go over to San Francisco, I sat there for 2.5 hours. So some of us are going to be in long parking lots as we try to get out in a regional or area-wide major disaster, and we're trying to get to our destination. So make sure that the gas tanks are full, make sure that your EVs and your hybrids are fully charged. What I also recommend is a list of those last minute items that won't go in your grab and go bag. They will be things that you need to grab at the last minute. I post that on my refrigerator just to remind me this is what I need to get. Should I get an evacuation order or want to voluntarily leave Rossmoor because I'm concerned? Lisa really correctly, rightfully mentioned the paper maps. We encourage, EPO encourages all of our residents to have at least 2 destinations for evacuating. One of them might be blocked by the event or the incident. The GPS on our cell phones only gives us 1 point only usually, and in order for you to negotiate the side streets and any alternate routes around to reach your destination point, you're going to need paper maps. So I encourage people to have paper maps and to store them in their car so that they are there at the ready. Those of you who have pets may want to put a sign on your window or door alerting first responders and windshield surveyors inside Rossmoor that you do have a pet in case you're not here. And last but not least, I'm sitting here above the 11th hole of the golf course, and the devil winds on Mount Diablo are blowing at what it looks like to be 45 miles an hour here. So all of us need to be opt in to the Rossmoor Nixle alert system. And also additionally, just as important, we need to be opt into the Contra Costa County Community Warning System. And we have 2 tip sheets on our website that will let you know how to do that. You get that information to your neighbors. Lisa, fantastic presentation, which EPO is very grateful to you for providing. Harris Greenberg is now going to tell us how to discuss how to find safe water sources as well as how to treat unsafe water sources. If you find that you don't have enough water, should we find ourselves in, say, a 2-week or longer shelter-in-place order. So, Harris, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. Actually, first I'm going to start with why we might need to find those safe water sources when we're sheltering in place. This is a short subset of the slides that from Dale Cox's EPO and CERT presentation from October of 2021, where he talked about the modeling of a large earthquake centering on the Hayward Fault, where they modeled it and they had a lot of meetings with emergency responders of fire, police, and other organizations, as well as transportation folks, to coordinate what might happen and how they might respond to that. And there's, if you go to the EPO website and you look at the EPO calendar for 2021, you'll find the video of that meeting, and you'll also see the slide deck, which I pulled just a few sub slides from that. The key is California is famous for earthquakes and the possibility. There's 6 major faults in the area. And of those, there's a 1 in 3 chance of a major earthquake happening in the next 30 years. So that haywired scenario, every October they have a drill, but basically it assumes a 7.0 earthquake happening in the afternoon. It starts in Oakland and it rapidly runs up. It covers 53 miles north and south of Oakland, and there can be displacement. There can be a lot of things going on that can break the roadways, lift them up, and shift along, and sever pipelines for water, gas, electrical conduits, and communication cables that are all underground. And not only do we have when you have an earthquake, you also get a lot of aftershocks. And surprisingly, some of those aftershocks can be stronger than the initial earthquake itself. With all of that, the water systems can be out. Depending on what was going on, it can be not just a week or 2 weeks. In some cases, it may be multi-month before you get things restored and back to normal. As again I said, the phone servers, the internet, the power will be out for an extended period of time. The panel, this panel over here shows you some ways to recharge your phones and your computers so that you can use them when the power is out for an extended time. This is a small solar array and allows you to charge devices through a USB port. There's an example here of the phone with a charger. Again, you might be able to plug it into a charger in your car, or you might have an extended battery, as Lisa mentioned. Okay, this is talking about, there are guidelines from the CDC, and there are guidelines from the Federal Emergency Management FEMA agency. And basically, you need to listen to and pay attention to emergency announcements. And when the power and the water and everything has been out for a period of time, you can and if the pipes going into your house and into the area break, you can get backflow of stuff from the ground and from sewage systems. And those announcements will be out there to warn you. If they tell you that there's a boiling alert, it means there's some contamination in the water supplies, and you need to boil it, or disinfect or filter the water. And I'm going to get into some detail on that because FEMA has a lot of information on that. Back in the day when we were having emergency preparedness fairs in person, the Third Walnut Creek Mutual had some media presentations of those, and I was on that committee. And in 2018 and 2019, I prepared this set of slides. This is just a small subset of those. If you want to see the full presentation in the slideshow, there's also a video narration of that I put on the EPO website as well. And those both can be found under the Emergency Preparedness Fair page of the Rossmoor EPO website. This guidance is coming from this link here from FEMA under ready.gov water. And if you click on that link in the slides, it'll take you right to their website. Basically, the questions here are going to be safe water sources versus unsafe water sources. And so safe water sources in your house, just melted ice cubes, liquid from canned goods, water drained from the pipes. And basically, before you can get water out of the pipe, you need to let some air into another part of the pipe. So you might have to open a faucet at a higher level, and then some water is going to come dripping out, trickle out of a pipe at the lower level. The thing is, normally, when the water system's operating properly, it's under pressure, and its pressure is coming from the water supply, and that's what pushes the water out of the pipe. But when that pressure is gone, because the main supply pipes are broken, you need to just drain it. Lisa mentioned the water heater. I'm going to go into a lot more information about that. Basically, you have a steel tank in each of your houses, which is the hot water heater that provides water in your house, and is typically a 50-gallon tank. But over the years, the sediment that comes in through the water tends to settle into basically a little bit of sludge and mud at the bottom of that tank. And each of these water heaters has a hose connection where it's meant to allow you to drain some of that sludge out periodically, like every couple of years. Nobody does it. So that builds up. And so what might have been 50 gallons of clean water in your house ends up being maybe 40 gallons after you've drained out some of that sludge. And we'll get into that just briefly at the end here. I'm going to keep this short. Unsafe water sources. And again, this is something that Lisa mentioned too. If you have radiators for home heating, the toilet bowl and flush tank are unsafe. They're sitting around. Water beds have fungicides in them to keep from growth in them. And again, those chemicals are not safe to drink. Swimming pools and spas, you may think that was okay, but their chemical treatments are too strong for personal use. It's not, you can't drink that as a need. However, you can always take a bucket full of that water and use it to flush your toilet if the water is not running. Okay, what about what's the issue about contamination? It says you want to treat all the water that you're using if you're not sure of the quality, because you need it for drinking, for washing or food preparation, for washing the dishes, for brushing your teeth, or for making ice. You want to make sure you're using safe water for all of those purposes. Also, if there's a bad color or taste, contaminated water may contain microorganisms, germs that cause diseases such as dysentery, cholera, typhoid, and hepatitis. All of those things show up pretty much in an area that has gone for an extended period of time without clean treated water, because people will drink, they need to drink to survive, and they're going to be drinking contaminated water if they don't treat it properly. So FEMA recommends there are 4 basic methods for cleaning, treating water. And all of them will kill microbes. They don't all remove contaminants, heavy metals, and other chemicals like that. So for example, the weed killers and stuff that are used on the golf course and on lawns, and the other chemical fertilizers, they will drain into the creek that runs through Rossmoor. When the ducks are leaving their droppings around on the lawn, again, that drains into the creek. So you might think that the creek in Rossmoor is a great source of water. It is, but you don't want to drink it directly. You could easily get sick from not only the chemicals, but from Giardia and other parasites. Okay, boiling. Basically, you need a large particle. You need to bring it to water to a boil for a full minute, a rolling boil for a full minute. And you're going to lose a little bit of water from evaporation. You need to let it cool before you drink it. If the boiled water basically loses all of its oxygen and it's gonna taste very flat, you want to pour it back and forth, and that'll add some oxygen back into it, and it'll improve the taste. That also works with the stored water that you had. Water treatment with chlorine. You do not want to use any bleach that is color safe bleaches or bleaches with added cleaners or added smell to make them smell nice. Just regular household bleach, the standard is 5.25 to 6% of sodium hypochlorite. Once a bottle of bleach has been opened and sits around for a while, it loses its potency. So an unopened bottle of bleach or a fresh one is what you want to have around. You want to just take a number, just basically a half a teaspoon or something like that per gallon of water when you want to purify it. After you've done that treating and it sits around for about 15 minutes, if it still doesn't have a little bit of a chlorine smell to it, do it again. And after another treatment, if it still doesn't have a slight chlorine treatment to it, it means that the chlorine that you were using had lost its potency. There are other chemicals you can use, but FEMA argues against using the other ones because people have allergies and issues with iodine and other potential treatments. The last one is distillation. This will kill all the microbes as well as those that resist boiling or chlorine, but this is a tough one to do. The instructions are over here. I'm not going to go into that, but if you listen to the full presentation or the video, that'll go into it a little bit more. This is typically what the water heater looks like. Let me go to the larger slide. This is what your water heater should look like. If you have a different one, it'll have a sticker like this on it, specific to your water heater. On the bottom over here, you see the letter F. That's the bottom over here. You see the letter F. That's the drain to take the water out. This is the input water supply. It comes in on the top, and that's cold water from the outside. You want to turn that off, especially if there's a potential that the water supply has been contaminated. You don't want the contaminated water going into your clean water supply. If the power is off and you go through this process to drain the water out of the tank, you need to disconnect the gas or the electric before you do the draining, because when the power comes back on, it'll try to heat water that's not there, and it could burn out the circuits in there. So there's a whole series of steps that you want to go through to make sure that you do this properly, and they are listed over here. It's a tricky process. You need to be careful doing it, but if you're running out of water and it's an extended period of time, then you need to pay attention to this and get to it. The other possibilities are countertop water pitchers. They will do the general cleaning of the water, and they will filter quite a bit of water over time. You need to keep in mind that while they will do a good job, they're typically not certified for removing biological contamination. So if you get a boil water advisory, besides filtering the water through the countertop to clean up any dirt and chemicals, you may still want to boil it to get rid of any bacteria or viruses. The other possibility are water filters designed for camping. There are ones that are designed to work with a ceramic filter with carbon core, and you need to pressurize those to get the water out. The easiest one to use and the most economical is a microfilter membrane type, like the Life Straw, and that's available in a price range that's reasonable. The Life Straw itself can be $35. You can get it in combinations with containers that you can fill up and then put the Life Straw in that, and that's a little bit more. And you can get them from Amazon or REI, and they are effective against a lot of contaminants. So, for example, you would be able to stick it directly in a dirty looking puddle and sip through it, and it will filter out a lot of pretty much everything. It's not really completely effective against some viruses, but that's not most likely going to be the issue. It's more the bacteria and the parasites. So that's basically it.
Thank you, Harris, very much. Very helpful information. It's detailed, and so you will want to check out the EPO website for more specific instructions on how to ensure that you have safe water supply during a long shelter-in-place order. Nancy, can you bring up our questions and comments, please, and batch them and forward them to who you think is the best panelist to answer? Thank you.
Okay. We've already addressed some of them as we got into some further detail. We did have one suggestion from one of our attendees that I thought was a good one, which is to add a list of your passwords to your grab and go bag. I think that was a really good one. So I would pass that along for those of you who didn't see it in the chat. Lisa, this is for you. I think I know the answer to this. But would you recommend a thin reflective blanket, one of those Mylar types, as a replacement for having a bulkier wool blanket in your grab and go bag?
Those Mylar blankets are really good as far as keeping the heat in. They by no means replace a warm, cuddly creature comfort blanket. I will say there are several situations where the Mylar blanket exceeds expectations, and that is, if you remember back, several years ago, there was a tech person who was with his family in the snow, and they got stuck in the snow, and he went out to get help, but he succumbed to the conditions out there. They waited in the car, and I thought at that time, if I could be him and if I could go back in time, I wish he would have had one of those Mylar blankets. He could have spread that over his car, and he would have been more visible. So there are, if you have the space in your grab and go bag to have like a little fleece blanket, as well as those little Mylar blankets, by all means. If space does not allow you to have a fleece blanket, then at least have the Mylar, and it reflects your body heat back to you. And there's no reason why you can't share a Mylar blanket with someone else. Now you've taken a negative and you've created a positive. But if it's a stranger, at least introduce yourself first before you cuddle together with them. And then there you go.
Thank you, Lisa. As always, I walk away with one or two priceless gems from your presentations. That's a great one. We had one suggestion, which is in a shelter-in-place situation, if there is a fear of loss of water and you have a bathtub, fill it up with water. What a great source of fresh, clean water, along with what Harris has talked about with the water heater. Another resonant question, again, for you, Lisa. If I have all the things that I would normally need for a grab and go bag in my house, why would I need to have a kit for it? I think I know the answer, but I'll let you expand on it. If it were me, I think I do have all of them, but I would be like the Mickey Mouse cartoon. I would
That's
be so
exactly
frazzled.
right. So let's
I
go back. If
go
you think
take the
about
wrong-
the San Bruno, do you remember the San Bruno gas explosion? Now, there were some people who it wouldn't matter how much time they had to prepare, it was over in an instant. There are situations like that. However, with the fires and things like that, you may have minutes. So how long? I mean, be real. You may know where you have all the stuff, you know where it is, but time yourself. Just do a practice run now when there's no emergency. Time yourself as to how long it would take you to put all of the things that you need into a bag. Okay, if that exceeds 5 minutes, then whatever you have not put in the 5 minutes is stuff that you're not going to be able to take with you. If you had a choice, why not have extra in a bag where all you have to do is grab the bag and go? You're out of the house in 3 minutes, including even, let's not forget, you can put an extra set of car keys or something, or a house key in order to lock up your car. The time, you cannot move the clock back with time. And if 5 minutes is the most, it doesn't matter if you're done in 6 minutes, 5 minutes is your time. That's it. So that's why you need to prepare now.
Thank you, Lisa. The last question was, if there's no water available for flushing a toilet, how do we cope? I'm going to think of it as an extended camping trip, but there may be others that have better suggestions than that. Camping was never my favorite.
So if there is no water for flushing, then there's no reason why you can't, if you have an empty bowl, you can put a bag in there and you can pack it up just like when you walk the dog. You gather it and you have the little containers and you tie it up, and then afterwards it can be disposed of properly. Either it's treated as hazardous waste because it's bodily fluids, or it can be put down into a proper septic setting after the emergency. But there's, if you happen to have, let's say there's no water at all, or you can't even get to a regular toilet, there are camping toilets, but many of us have or have experienced those bedside commodes, which are much sturdier than those honey bucket things. I prefer them, especially as people get older, because our thigh muscles are not as good at supporting us as they were when we were 20. And the last thing you want to do is create a situation where you try to navigate onto one of those honey buckets and you have a fall and now you have a hip issue. So those bedside commodes fold up. People get rid of them after the emergency or the surgery is there. I say keep one if you have it. I actually have 3 of them in my warehouse. So if anybody here needs one, I keep them when they're in clean. People haven't used them again because just for those situations, you never know. They work great in an emergency. You put a bucket underneath. If you put a bucket, please put a bag inside the bucket. It'll make your life easier after for disposing of it. And then you just replace the bags. And you can use things like, you don't have to replace the bag every time. You can let it sit for a little bit and you can put deodorizers in there. We alluded to that earlier, but there's a reason you don't have to get rid of proper sanitation. You just have to improvise.
Lisa,
I'd like to add something to that. On the EPO website, again, under I think it's under the emergency preparedness fair section as well. I had a presentation about how to prepare a community emergency supply kit, not just a personal one. And that one addressed sanitation as an issue. And also, I think the county at one point had an emergency preparedness fair at the event center, and they handed out some of these as well. The key here is essentially a 5-gallon bucket, but it's called a luggable loo. It has a lid that can be closed and sealed, but when you take that lid off, it has a toilet seat. And you can lift the toilet seat up, put a garbage bag in there, put in some kitty litter to keep the smell down, and use that for sanitation purposes. At that point, when it gets used enough, you open the lid, you take out the bag, you bury you use the shovel that's in the emergency preparedness kit, and you dispose of it underground until things come back to normal and it can be disposed of properly. But those community emergency response kits may have tarps for making community shelters, rope for hanging them, some plastic for covering broken windows if they're just cracked, saws and other things for clearing down tree limbs, and big larger first aid kits and emergency radios and lights and stuff like that. So there's the family and personal emergency supply kits, but if you're an entry coordinator, you may talk to your residents about chipping in to get the supplies that are meant for the group to congregate and survive after an event as well.
I'd like to follow up on that, Harris and Lisa. I would encourage all the EPO team leaders in your neighborhoods. You have various household configurations. One portable potty for an entire entry is not going to do the trick when I have 20 homes here and 37 residents in my entry. I encourage all housing configurations to get together, pinch your money together, put it together and buy a portable commode, because in time, if there's a long shelter-in-place order, residents here will need them. So it's a good idea. It's very, very important. Thank you.
And Fran, I have, over the past nearly 20 years, I've gone out and I've met with entries and groups, and I've done many versions. I've worked with groups who have pooled their money and who've done it individually. I can help you with all of those. And I know that Rossmoor is very helpful about allowing you to have an outdoor storage area. There is a concern about people breaking into those. It's happened in the past. That's just the way it is. So we'll have to look at keeping it secure and safe and replaced, but I can work with each of you. Just let me know what I can do to help each of you. And again, I have 3 of those bedside commos. Harris, you were talking about the Luggle Baloo. That's great. The one advantage to these bedside commodes, although they're not as compact, although they do fold up, is that they have the arms.
Yes.
So that you can help support yourself, because those leg thighs of us, while we think they still work the same way they did when we were 20 and 30, they don't. And my biggest concern, because I used to offer those honey buckets, I'm very concerned with the 55 and older population of a fall and a hip fracture. That is not something any of us want. So don't be so quick to get rid of those bedside commodes. Keep them.
I agree wholeheartedly. And having suffered a hip fracture, a femur fracture 5.5 months ago and still in mortal pain every day, not the way to go.
Yes.
So, and I think Cashion, haven't you mentioned in the past a kind of lock that we can, that are cover for a lock that helps protect neighborhood entry caches and in the past?
Yeah, I didn't have like a specific lock, except for not to put a easily defeated lock, which, a lot of times you can use with a pry bar or lock or bolt cutters. That's how usually those are gotten through. So there are many out there. I didn't recommend a specific one, but if you go on to Amazon, that's where I find my best stuff. You can see many locks that cannot be easily defeated. Then that way it does.
Ace Hardware is a really good resource, and lock boxes are really good as well, so that it's not, so you don't have to wait for one person who has a key. It could be a combination lock or a combination that accesses the key. There's all sorts of options. Ace Hardware is a great resource.
And the advantage of having that lock, key lock or to the lock box, is that any EPO team member who happens to be here can get to it quickly and get to the supplies we need quickly. Thank you. That's great. Nancy, any other questions or comments?
I think that wraps it up for me.
Thank you for a fantastic.
Excellent. Sure.
Thank you for a fantastic job, per usual. I want to thank everybody. Harris, we've had a request to wait to a bit before closing out the meeting. People can go ahead and leave when they want, but there are some people who want to save the chat and wanted to be able to do that. And Lisa reminded me that one of our best tools in our trade in emergency preparedness is patience. And if we do have a long-standing regional or area emergency or disaster here, we're going to need patience through the full mitigation and the recovery that comes later. And patience is going to be our best tool to reaching the resiliency that this Rossmoor community so well deserves. Thank you all for your participation. You help us meet our EPO goal mission, and it is vital that the information that Lisa has presented gets out to all your neighbors so that we can have everybody prepared and ready. Thank you so much.
Stay safe, everyone.
Okay, so all the contact information for the presenters is on this screen, and again, the slides that were shown today will be posted on the website along with the video.